vow to realize its true meaning. The dharma is vast and subtle. We now have a chance to hear it, study it, and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. The dharma is vast and subtle. We now have a chance to hear it, study it, and practice it. We vow to realize its true.
Okay, testing the mic. Can you hear me in the back? Great. Can you for now? Everyone. Sensei Ulrika, who was to give the talk tonight, is still not feeling well after a hard bout with COVID. So we're wishing her well, sending good wishes her way, and hopefully she'll be joining us soon. So we just found out about that a few hours ago. And so we have the wonderful blessing of getting to give a talk without getting too much in our heads, although a couple hours is plenty of time. But we just wanted to share with you a little bit from some studies we've been looking at, and then to maybe open it up for some discussion. So first, just to acknowledge that tomorrow is the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. And I'm not sure if tonight's the longest night or if it's tomorrow. I don't know if anybody knows, but they're pretty close. Probably tomorrow night. One thing that you might not know, which I found very interesting when I discovered this, is that the earliest sunset, the earliest kind of evening, and the latest morning are actually not today or tomorrow. They're quite separate. The earliest sunset was a couple weeks ago. It was around the 13th, or last week, I guess. And the latest sunrise will be near the end of the year. And so it just so happens that they kind of, the curves meet up right around the winter solstice, and we get the shortest day. I don't know if that's local or not, but one way I kind of feel into this myself, and I don't know how many people have a rhythm or a schedule where it's the same every single day. But when I drive down Cerro Gordo to come to the Zendo in the morning, it's almost exactly the same time every day. It's like 6:47 or 6:48, and so I can kind of watch every day when the sun is getting closer and closer, and then is peeking at me as the light turns toward the summer. And then of course the time change messes it all up. It's kind of annoying, but hopefully we'll get to get rid of that soon. There's legislation. I look at Kozan because he's my legislation guru. But yeah, it's to kind of experience that ourselves. And we're so disconnected, I think, most of the time from the light and the changing, but it affects us, of course. And it is wonderful to kind of go deep and quiet in the winter into our hibernation mode. And we had Rahatsu session where we had 60, how many people did we have? 65 people in the Zendo in dead silence together, living silence. Starting dark in the morning and going to dark at night. And some bunch of you were there. So, and then we look towards the turning of the light, starting day after tomorrow, I guess, where it starts to get brighter. And this feeling of light, of what light means in Dharma, and for us, not just as a physical phenomenon, which is actually quite fascinating. I won't get into the science of it unless we want to talk about it, but light, talk about perspective taking. If you were riding on a light beam, time does not exist. Okay, I'll leave it at that and talk about that later. But
have you tried?
I mean, the faster I go, the slower time gets, right? That's supposedly. And for one thing I want to say is Ulrika Sensei's talk was going to be on traces in the sky in search of Dogen. And so I wanted to touch in on Dogen. We wanted to touch in on Dogen together. And an obvious choice that I don't think either of us had looked at was this fascicle 37 radiant light. And it's a really, in a way, it's short and sweet and a classic Dogen text. He talks about at least one koan, if not two, and does a little of his Dogen magic. So I wanted to share with you a bit of this. So from the introduction, or from the opening paragraph, he says, in a formal talk, Changsha, Great Master Zhao Xian of Hunan, Great Song China, said, the entire world of the 10 directions is a Shramana's single eye. Shramana is a monk. The entire world of the 10 directions is a Shramana's everyday speech. The entire world of the 10 directions is a Shramana's entire body. The entire world of the 10 directions is the radiant light of the self. The entire world of the 10 directions is within the radiant light of the self. In the entire world of the 10 directions, there is not a single person that is not the self. And then he goes on to explicate this in his way. Just to look at can you guys hear okay? Go up a little bit. How about now? Any better now? Oh, I'll speak up a bit. As he continues to explicate this part of the koan, he says this passage, which I thought it just really touched me, especially with, Dogen can get so esoteric sometimes. And it's like, what's the connection here with my practice in my life and what's happening in the world? And I'm just going to read this and speak a little to that, because I think it is very relevant. Until that time, no one in China had ever seen, until the time he said this saying, right? Until that time, no one in China had seen or heard of the radiant light of Buddha ancestors. Who then was even aware of the radiant light of the self? Even though people had been carrying the radiant light within their heads and encountering it all the time, they still did not practice it as their own eyeballs. I'll read that again. Even though people had been carrying the radiant light within their heads and encountering it all the time, they still did not practice it as their own eyeballs. So radiant light is your eyeballs, you could say, is your vision. I mean, in fact, just from a scientific perspective, everything you're seeing is light, right? By definition. But have you ever thought like, oh, everything I'm seeing is actually radiant light reflected? I don't see Henry sitting there, actually. I mean, I guess the definition of seeing is the light bouncing off him, but I don't experience Henry except mediated through this light. But maybe the light they're talking about is something else. What is the radiant light of the Buddha ancestors? And to know, or to believe at least, to practice with the idea that you are radiant light yourself, and that everyone is the radiant light of the Buddha ancestors of this practice. He continues, thus they do not clarify the shape and function of radiant light, because they avoided encountering the radiant light, their radiant light was missing radiant light. Their radiant light was missing, like missing the radiant light. Although missing is itself radiant light, they were immersed in missing. I mean, this is about us too. Although missing is itself radiant light, we are immersed in the missing. So even though I'm radiant light, Kozan's radiant light, we're all radiant light, we miss it. We see something else. We see this person who's in front of me and they haven't gone yet, even though the light's green. So should I honk my horn or should I not? And the person behind me honks and says, oh, I probably should have honked first to help them, you know. And it's just like, we don't ask about that. We, of course, most of the time, we just are conceptualizing, we're putting little constructs around everyone. This person is this person's that, and this is what they mean for me or against. And what would it be like if we all first saw the radiant light in each other? What if we looked up in the mirror in the morning and brushing our teeth and, hi, radiant light. Monchin invited us last week to really connect with each other before we started talking over our shoulder. And like, hey, hand me the thing, hand me the salt. It's like, hey, radiant light, pass us the salt. Thank you. And I love that connection, that seeing. And maybe we don't know what radiant light is. What does that even mean for me or for practice? But that you get a sense of it. And if you think you know what it means, I want to read you one more very Dogen-y passage. And this is not a joke. I mean, this is like, you really try to be in this paragraph with us, with me as I read it, okay? Radiant light means each and every person. Each and every person takes up the radiant light and sees its body, mind, and environs. There is a person where each and every radiant light embodies a person. There is a person where radiant light is the self. There is a person where each and every person embodies a person. There is a radiant light where each and every radiant light embodies radiant light. There is embodiment where each and every embodiment embodies. There is each and everywhere, each and every self embodies each and every. Thus, know that the radiant light that each and every person embodies is each and every person that is actualized. It is each and every person that each and every light embodies. I mean, it gives you the chills, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense rationally, or if you try to think like, which part is it? But somehow the way he uses words, it's poetry, you know, it's evocative of this sense of light being completely interpenetrative, that we're all made of it. We are light. We are embodied light. And it's a beautiful practice to sit with a little Dogen and let it just soak into you, and then maybe go sit in the Zendo and feel that. And he goes on and to speak about a koan that Kozan will speak on in the fascicle, which is from the Blue Cliff record. And as we move into the space between now and the winter practice period, starting on January 3rd, space is still available, which is on the Blue Cliff record. I thought it was really appropriate to read this wonderful 4-line poem that is the beginning of the Blue Cliff record. And I'm not sure I've seen it before, but it seems to be along the lines that we've been talking about. Boundless wind and moon, the eye within eyes, inexhaustible heaven and earth, the light beyond light, the willow dark, the flower bright, 10,000 houses. Knock at any door, there's one who will respond. Do you need this? Do you need some light?
I could use light, yeah. Thanks, Kodo Sensei. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you. And good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? No. Doreen is our audio tester. How about now, Doreen? A little better? I'll speak up. I won't actually. I start dropping as I talk, so we should make sure the mic is up. It's just know thyself, you know. So it's really a gift to have zero time to prepare for a talk, and I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. So thanks for jumping in with me. Thanks for jumping in together.
Thanks, Roshi, for saying that we should do it.
No. It was the right thing to do. I hadn't realized until you're speaking that I've never seen Kodo. I've only seen radiant light, and I think a lot.
Seen Kodo,
which means the way of light. And Kigaku, his other name, means radiant peak. So it's a gift that we all get to see radiant light when we're with you. My name also means radiant mountain. I'm just, he gets the peak. I'm like the mountain foothills, but but we both have light names, and it's this kind of this theme, this kind of core to our practice. And so I have some things I'd love to say about it, but before I do, two things actually. Thinking about Ulrika, who I don't think many people here know. It's been a while since she's been here. And Sensei Ulrika is just a wonderful spirit and has this deep intimacy with Dogen's teachings. And last time she was here in residency for a month, we did a seminar where she just kind of shared what she hears when she reads Dogen. And it was 10 items. Sure, I think you were here for it. Yeah. And one that I remember, I actually kept them on my in my kitchen for like a year. And one that we talked a lot about was the practice of forgiving the unforgivable. That this is kind of what Dogen asks of us. That the other is kind of accepting or sitting in the inconceivable. So both of those kind of go together. And that our practice is being with a world beyond our capacity to get our arms around the world, beyond us. And that includes this immense bigness, the bigness of our mind, the bigness of our love, the bigness of our capacity to feel. And at the same time, this immense heartbreak that we betray ourselves and betray each other and do things that you would think could never be okay, that aren't okay. They're not okay. And Dogen's invitation, as Ulrika understands it, and as maybe we hear it, is to show up to life just as it is, which includes that aspect to it, instead of wanting to life to be kind of one without the other, the beautiful inconceivable without the heartbreaking inconceivable. And we're in a time of conflict. We're always in a time of conflict, but it seems particularly acute right now. So I think of Ulrika's teachings and Dogen's invitation for us to be with things just as they are. So thank you, Ulrika, and I hope you, our heart to you is you're resting and hopefully finding health again. It was no small thing that kept Ulrika from us. So I hope some sense of that comes through in this koan that Kodo mentioned I'm going to speak to. And it's fitting for a number of reasons. This is a koan in the Blue Cliff record, case 86. I'm going to read Dogen's version of it, which is slightly different than we'd read directly in the Blue Cliff record. And it's our protagonist is Yunmen, who is a great Chan teacher from the heyday of Chan in China, and who's one of the founders of the 5 schools. And so that school is what will lead to the Blue Cliff record, the collection, Blue Cliff record. All the schools will end up using it, and the stories are from all the schools, but it's thanks to his lineage that we have this text that we're going to study together in January. So the koan goes like this. It's very short, as they sometimes are. So Yunmen ascends the teacher's seat. It says, once he ascended the teacher's seat, and he said to the assembly, each and every person embodies the radiant light. If you try and see it, it's totally invisible. Then, what is each and every person's radiant light? So each and every person embodies the radiant light. If you try and see it, you can't, it's invisible. If that's the case, then what is each and every person's radiant light? He asks the assembly, no one answers, it's silent. So Yunmen answers himself and he says, the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, the monastery gate. And then he descends from the seat. And that's our koan. So before I go any further, and Dogen gives us some words on this in a beautifully Dogen way. He doesn't give us any answers, but he opens up this question. I want to open it up to the room. When we hear the words, the entire world in the 10 direction is the radiant light of the self, what does that mean? What do we hear? Sounds nice. What is the radiant light of the self that covers the entire world in the 10 directions? Yeah, Ethan.
We'll wait for the mic.
I can repeat the answer for the mic.
Sure, yeah. To me, that sounds kind of like all is mind. It sounds like there's no separation between the world that you perceive and yourself.
So Ethan's saying all is mind, and there's no separation between the world that we perceive and the world we understand as the self. Yeah. We're introducing a whole other, ball of wax with mind, but yeah, so everything is some expression of the self. Yeah, what else? What else do you hear? Yeah, Danny.
Love feels, I feel just like that's what love is, all encompassing everything.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah.
One of the things it makes me think of is that perhaps it's never created and it's never destroyed. So this eternal idea that it's so easy for us to keep thinking that things begin and they end. But in fact, they just are. And that's what I think of the light. It's everywhere.
Never created, never destroyed. No beginning, no ending, no coming, no going. Yeah, thank you. And I think this is one of Einstein's insights into light, is it's the one thing that doesn't come or go in the universe. Yeah.
Everything, it's alive.
Everything's alive.
It's alive. Yeah, light is it's alive. It's light. It's all connected. It's light sort of radiating at different frequencies.
It's alive. Thank you. Yeah.
Can we use the mic if it's just better
for the audio? Sure. Yeah, we have one.
So with like the 10,000, I don't exactly remember what it said, but the whole world being radiant light and the self, I think like that the world is a product of the selves that exist on this world, on the planet, right? And like each of those selves have or are radiant light. So just the combination of every being that exists.
Beautiful.
The entire world of the 10 directions is within the radiant light of
Of
the
the
self.
self. Yeah. But you're also, you know, he and Dogen often does this. The one in the many, and the many in the one. In any given expression of light is the whole world, and the whole world is an expression of one light. Okay, yeah, Monshin.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the dark included?
Oh, I'm gonna get there. Of course, you jump right there. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we do chant it every week, so hopefully we're catching on. But yeah, thank you, Munchin. So that's all. Yeah, that's all it. And I think we have a kind of instinct to end there. These, you know, Chuang-Sha also says the entire world in the 10 direction is one bright pearl. The entire world in the 10 direction is the body of the Buddha. The entire world in the 10 direction is this very body. The sense of like including everything is his specialty. We don't leave anything out. Is one, you know, wind bell hanging in space. And that kind of all-encompassing oneness can, if we're not careful, be a kind of endpoint, be a kind of, oh, well, that's it. All you need is everything. And Dogen in this koan that I'll jump into in a minute, I think invites us into seeing difference in that unity as well, seeing everything in its particular form in that unity. Okay, so let's spend a few minutes with this koan. So just to remind us, each and every person embodies the radiant light. If you try and see it, it's invisible. Then what is it, this radiant light? No answer. And he says, the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, the monastery gate. Dogen writes, Yunmen did not say that each and every person's radiant light will appear later, or has appeared in the past, or is appearing nearby. Clearly, hear the words, he asks. Each and every person embodies the radiant light. That might not be so easy for us to hear. Clearly hear the words. Each and every person embodies the radiant light. That includes you. Assemble 100 or 1,000 Yunmens and make them investigate together and speak in one voice. Each and every person embodies radiant light. This is not Yunmen's personal statement. Everyone's light takes itself up and makes this statement. Each and every person embodies the radiant light. It means all humanity embodies radiant light. Each and every person, radiant light means each and every person, and each and every person takes up radiant light and sees its body, mind, and environs. There is a person where each and every radiant light embodies a person. We're going to get pretty Dogen for a minute here. There's a person where radiant light is the self. There is a person where each and every person embodies a person. There is a radiant light where each and every radiant light embodies radiant light. There is embodiment where each and every embodiment embodies. There is each and every where each and every self embodies each and every self. We know exactly what that means. Thus, know that the radiant light that each and every person embodies is each and every person that is actualized. It is each and every person that each and every light embodies. Getting to your point. Let me ask you, Yun Men, Dogen writes, what do you call each and every person? What do you call radiant light? We're allowed to do this, it turns out, to turn the koan back on the koan and ask it what it's telling us. So we're still at the very first sentence, just to be clear. He's just reminded us how profound the question is, and that we can stop there, and that this is the teaching Human gives to all of us across generations. Mm. He says of the question that Human asked, which is this, then what is each and every person's radiant light? He says this question is itself radiant light. It is a statement that kills doubt. Thus, each and every person who responds to it is a person of radiant light. So I'm going to step away from Dogen for a second. So we are light. Everything we see is light. Everything in the world is light. When we've noticed that as sight, but there's another way in which everything is light, and that's our attention. What we attend to is what we give our light to, our liveliness, our aliveness, as you said. That the attention, which is impossible not to have, which is part and parcel of being alive, is to have the capacity to feel the world, is this radiant light. And we really can't share it anywhere but right here, which is right where we are in our life. But right here is the radiant light of the entire world in the 10 directions. So what is this radiant light, he asks? This is where I think we step out of the kind of literal into the holistic view. Oh, this radiant light is this entire body, this entire being, this entire life force right here. But then he says, when we look for it, it disappears. How is that so? Why does it disappear when we look for it? Okay, we can all look for it for a second. Is he right? Does it disappear? Did you see it? I see it over there, but I'm looking for my radiant light. Maybe that's the trick. So we don't have much time. We really want to open up into conversation. So I just want to say this about this line. This seems to be our habit, which is to look for radiant light instead of being radiant light, being just as we are. And this is really our habit in Zen. We call this Zen dust, where things become special. And so we look for the special thing, whether it's in here or over there. And all of a sudden, we can't see the thing anymore. We just see the sparkle of dust. Where's my special light? Where's my special kind of the thing that I'm looking for? Well, you've just covered it up. So I think this is one of Ulrika's 10 lessons too. We find what we seek by not seeking. Something I'm butchering it. So when we look, it disappears. So what is everyone's light? And then he says, he answers his own question. And he says, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, the monastery gate. Now, this is a beautiful statement. I really like this statement, at least. It's like pointing to love. And we can just imagine the monastery gate. In this case, we can just imagine the Zendo doors coming through the front doors of our monastery. And we've all done this. We step through with our left foot, we bow. And there's some alchemy in stepping through the Zendo doors. I wonder what it feels like to you. But to me, it always feels like stepping across a threshold into a body of practice. And it never feels like I'm stepping through alone. There's always all the beings that have stepped through that door. There's always all the beings that are stepping through right now through that door. And so there's this sense of presencing. Or we think of the pantry and the kitchen, which is the other thing he says. There's different translations. One is just the pantry. And what does he say? Eyeballs earlier in the fascicle?
Even though people had been carrying the radiant light within their heads and encountering it all the time, they still did not practice it as their own eyeballs.
Yeah. So the pantry, the radiant light of our eyeballs. This is, seeing every grain of rice as your own eyeball, or seeing a head of cabbage as your own body. And we tend to the pantry that way. I mean, Henry, where is he? He's in the kitchen right now. Oh, no. Oh, he's right here. Henry, it's hard to express what he does tending to all of us, feeding all of us. We feed each other as a community, but tending to the pantry. He gave an announcement this morning about where food is to be eaten, where food is that's being kept, how we make sure we tend to all the food and we use it properly. We're tending to things in a kind of incredible way. So all of this is just to say, there's a felt sense when you live in community, and it's nice to live in a kind of monastic structure, that every part of the monastery is a part of your own body. So like we're in the hara right now, the Zendo. And you go to the kitchen and you can imagine you're in your stomach. Or sometimes we imagine we're actually, in our mouth. Like this is where we process food. And where we live is like the arms, like this new building, all these places to stay, the arms of the monastery. And if you're here, you get a sense of the whole place, like your felt body. We sometimes say like the body of a Buddha, but it's your body. And now this is true of our homes. This is true of any community we live in. But the practice of living in community in this way is to feel each thing as your body. And that's not because the monastery is special. Like, well, only here is each building and each plant and each grain of rice the body of the Buddha. It's because the whole world is our body. But you really feel it when you make it specific, when you live it with traditionally 72 people doing 72 labors. And so he says, where is this radiant light of the self? It's everywhere in this body. It's our shared Buddha body. And so if you're trying to grasp it and hold on to it, and you're looking just right here, it's invisible, you miss it. Okay, two things. One is, and Monchin, thank you for presaging this. We chant every week the Sandokai. Light is also darkness, but do not move with it as darkness. Darkness is light, but do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two. So there's a kind of formula in Zen, light is supposed to be difference and darkness is unity, emptiness, and relative. Because in light, you see everything is different, and in darkness, everything is one hue. If it's pitch dark, everything looks the same. In this fascicle, we're flipping them. He's talking about light in terms of the absolute. All things are one, all beings are connected. And in this way, we can think that the radiant light of the self is like, a God ray that coming down from the sun on a cloudy day. It's just that perfect light. And yet it's our practice not to leave anything out. So it's on the darkest night of the year that we reflect on this light, because it's in the darkest night of the year that we can feel that light so present and precious. And it's inclusive of everything. So this is why I started with Ulrika's messages from Dogen. It includes what we think of as defiled or as failure. I don't know, but I mean, this is alive for me in the world right now. And so the notion of leaving it out when we talk about the radiant light of the self is a really alluring pitfall. Well, I'm going to sit here as a perfect golden Buddha, and there's no darkness in me at all. Not that kind of light. And so the important thing here is not to leave anything out. And that we don't get stuck on one idea or another. Oh, I'm a good Buddhist, or I'm a Buddhist failure, or this is the right way, or I always do it the wrong way, or they always do it the wrong way. This kind of shedding light on things illuminates difference, and that's fine. And it's our practice not to get stuck on believing we know how things are. And this is kind of the Blue Cliff Records message for us. It's, don't forget we're in confusion, it seems to tell us, koan after koan after koan. And when we think we've lost all of our confusion, we're really in confusion. So that's what I hear in the Sandokai. And the Sandokai, by the way, is quoted in the koan in Blue Cliff Records. So it's explicit in this koan. So I want to just close this little section and then open it up to reflections from everyone with a quote I love. And this is from a Taoist teacher, Lu Yan. And Zen and Taoism are kind of merged in China. And so we're intersecting practices. And this is where we get Dogen's famous turn the light around and shine within, then just return. That our practice is to take this backward step and turn the light around. So here's Lu Yan. Turning the light around is not turning around the light of one's body, but turning around the very energy of creation. It is not stopping random imagination only temporarily. It is truly emptying routine compulsion for all time. The light is neither inside nor outside of the self. Mountains, rivers, sun, moon, and the whole earth are all this light. So it is not only in the self. All the operations of intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom are also this light. So it is not outside the self. The light of the heaven and earth fills the universe. The light of one individual also naturally extends through the heavens and covers the earth. Therefore, once you turn the light around, everything in the world is turned around. The turning around is stopping. The light is seeing. Stopping without seeing is called turning around without light. Seeing without stopping is called having light without turning it around. Remember this. If you can look back again and again into the source of mind, whatever you are doing, not sticking to any image of person or self at all, then this is turning the light around wherever you are. This is the finest practice. What do you think?
It's kind of time.
Oh, it's time. I was thinking we went to 6:45, but don't tell me why I thought that.
We're moving fast. Just to say that was a great thing to end on, because on Saturday, our dear Diane and Wendy Lau will be leading Ease and Joy of Mornings, which is all about the practice of turning the light around and illuminating the radiant light of the self, which is everybody. So please join us on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And of course, we'll have it online and in person. So if you'd like to come in person, you can register for that. It's freely offered, donation-based program. So please join us. And we also have then our New Year's Eve sit. So if you haven't been with us on New Year's Eve, we start at 10 p.m. on the 31st and sit 25 minutes of sitting, then 10 minutes of walking. We do that a few times. And then half an hour before midnight, the densho starts tolling every few seconds, 108 times. And while that's happening, we make a bonfire outside, not quite a bonfire, a brazier fire. And the names of the deceased who have been on the altar for more than 49 days will get burned and purified in the fire. And that's our New Year's ceremony. And it'll end with a short talk with Roshi Joan to begin the new year. And then, of course, 3 days after, we begin our winter practice period on the Blue Cliff Record. And we'll be speaking more, I think, probably about this radiant light and how we can actualize it in ourselves and the world.
And are people invited to dinner tonight, Kodo?
Yes, and please, if you'd like to partake in the radiant light of Henry's cooking, you are most welcome. Just come on over to the kitchen after we finish cleaning up the zendo. Thank you, everyone.
We'll close with the 4 vows.
Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it.
restore the Zen. Thank you, everyone.
Okay then.